I got interrupted by a phone call, and I haven't reviewed the video. I'm not sure if I can pick up where I left off, but I was thinking about the connection between logic in terms of how I'm trying to address that word in the shaman pages and in the dictionary, in the model and dictionary, and this notion of a quantum leap. And while it may be true that it's only our inability to measure the steps in between, what I find beautiful with the notion of the quantum leap is precisely that it's that it helps me visualize distinguishing logic. I was rereading once again, researching a little bit about the sentence. In the beginning was the logos. In the beginning was the word, and whether it comes from the Greek, the Hebrew, the Aramaic, or whatever. And this, not that I'm somebody that looks at the Bible as most people look at the Bible, but the notion that because we cannot answer the question of what was the beginning, I suspect that it will always remain a mystery. But as I address in the shaman pages, non-existence is impossible. And the notion of awareness of either or, as I address in the pages, and the fact that with a quantum leap, we have the one example in terms of our human scientific perception of something that doesn't go gradually from here to there. It's either here or there. No, it's not just that, because anything is either here or there. At one point is here, and then all of a sudden it's there, and it's like, what happened to the in between? And so it's not like I'm going somewhere with this. I just, like I said, I want to talk about it impromptu, but for a long time I've been thinking it's almost like quantum physics is letting the human species know. Is giving a manifestation to the human species of what I'm trying to grasp at, and for lack of better words, I'm referring to as logic, not in terms of a system of reasoning, but in terms of this awareness of distinction of either or. And having also dabbled a little bit with Tauruses and dabbled a lot with mysticism, I find that I was going to say beautiful, rewarding, gratifying. I find it harmonious with my quests for mystic understanding. Even as I'm aware of the fact that I keep stressing that I suspect that the ultimate mystery will always remain a mystery, at least for the human mind. But there's something that matches, something harmonious with this concept that I've been trying to grasp at with words, and that I refer to as logic, but in the specific sense of the awareness of distinguishing either or. that I think is necessary with any kind of awareness. I find that there's a match, there's an overlap, there's a harmonious overlap between that thing that I'm trying to grasp at and this notion of the quantum leap, which when the deepest microscopic at the smallest level that we can look at scientifically, subatomic particles do not gradually go from point A to point B. They are at point A and then all of a sudden they're at point D or X. And sometimes this is very hard for me to try to articulate it, but for the longest time I've had this nebulous, strong feeling that I cannot put in words, but I'm going to go ahead and try. And that is also connected with something called the torus, which, as I said, I've looked at from several mystic perspective. And it's also connected to, I think, a comment that I make in the Shaman page about everything in the universe has to be logically compatible with everything else in the universe. That when you hear some scientists, theorists talk about infinite multiverses and infinite possibilities and so on and so forth, and I think that there's a difference between understanding that there's infinite possibilities and some theorists saying that if all infinite possibilities are happening, so that, you know, they say that there's a universe in which I'm talking right now, there's another universe in which I'm talking but I'm saying something slightly different. I actually don't think that's the case, and that connects to this quantum thing, which is that of all the infinite possibilities of anything, with everything having to be logically compatible with everything else. Right now I am saying what I am saying, and that in the torus of the infinity of the universe of every subatomic particle, there are no other universes where another alternate version of you is listening to this, but the music in the background is a little different. Or instead of it saying 7 minutes and 51 seconds, 7 minutes and 52 seconds, it's saying some other numbers. It's like what I talk about time. It's like if bitch time traveled from the future, where's she at now? And the quantum thing, the quantum leap, lets us know that yes, there may be infinite possibilities, but it's either going to be this or that. And this nebulous sense of something that, however, is almost as sharp as it is nebulous in me, but I cannot put it sharply in words, overlaps with this notion that there's this subatomic particle that is either over here or it's over there. And that when a scientist is looking at that and they're going, whoa, and they talk about quantum entanglement and it's here and it's there and galaxies apart or miles apart, what happens to one subatomic particle in one spot affects what happens to another subatomic particle in another spot, which is different from what I'm talking about. You know, subatomic particle is on Venus, and all of a sudden the subatomic particle is on the same subatomic particle is on Neptune. That's a quantum leap. Quantum entanglement has to do with the fact that if you got two subatomic particles and one is on Venus and the other one is on Mercury, with quantum entanglement, what they're seeing is that if you touch the one on Venus, the one on Mercury is going to react. And they're going, how is this possible? Does it have to be faster than the speed of light? I think it has to do with the connectivity, with the fact that everything is connected. It has to do with the fact that everything, that if you touch the quantum particle, if you touch that subatomic particle on Venus, and something happens to a different subatomic particle on Saturn or another galaxy, somehow I see it all connected to the quantum leap, not in the sense that the particle is leaping there, but in the sense that the quantum leap tells us it's either gonna something is either gonna be here or there. And if this applies to every single atom, that at any given instant a subatomic particle orbiting around the nucleus is either going to be perceived by our eyes, quote unquote, as being on this orbit, or it's going to be perceived by our eyes, so to speak, as being on that orbit. What the subatomic particles are telling our eyes is that of all the infinite possibilities of every single subatomic particle rubbing elbows with every single subatomic particle, and you cannot be east of Los Angeles and west of Los Angeles at the same time, because everything necessarily has to be compatible with everything else. What the subatomic particles are telling us is that it's either this or that. We have infinite possibilities, but I don't believe we have infinite universes. We have infinite possibilities. When I say I don't believe we have infinite universes, I mean I don't believe those people that say that we have, me speaking at 12 minutes and 14 seconds with my right hand coming forward, and in another universe there's me speaking at 12 minutes and 14 seconds with my left hand coming forward. I think what the subatomic particles are telling us is there's only two possibilities. Either I'm here or I'm there. It's pointing to that my sense of logic in the mystic sense. I can't explain it, but it's a fucking trip. But I want to implement and or produce and implement the most effective and efficient way for me to be happy about what I say with this video. Amore. Sorry. But anyway, okay. Whether or not there can only be one reality, and a lot of scientists would argue that necessarily because of the laws of physics, I had to have my right hand forward at 12 minutes and 14 seconds, and it wasn't my choice. I was following physical laws, but as I say in the shaman pages, well, wait a second. Scientists, when they discovered quantum mechanics, realized, shit, there are no physical laws that can let us say it's going to be left or it's going to be right, because it's the subatomic particles don't obey those laws. We can, make statistical betting on it, and we can say, oh, we bet that there's a 33% chance or whatever, or a 55% chance that this subatomic particle is going to go left instead of right. But that's different from when, Newton dropped the apple and said, okay, when Newton dropped the apple, it wasn't like, oh, there's a 55% chance that it's going to fall. No. They were saying there's a physical law that says if I drop the apple's going to fucking fall. Whereas with the subatomic particle and quantum mechanics, what they've realized is that they don't know what it's going to do. And so they try to invent these laws, and they haven't come out. The fact of the matter is that there is no scientific law. This connects to what I talk about free will and so on and so forth in the shaman pages. But if you take every subatomic particle in the universe, regardless of whether or not you believe that free will exists, it's either going to be here or it's going to be there. And there is something indicative and significant about the fact that, unlike a car that travels from New York to LA, or a spaceship that goes from Venus to Mercury, when we get down to the subatomic level, to make that analogy, that subatomic particle is either going to be on the Venus orbit or it's going to be on the Mercury orbit, nowhere in between. And that nowhere in between, to me, in a way that I'm having a hard time explaining, signifies distinction, signifies either or. It is the smallest thing that we can measure. However, when we measure it, we can measure the distance between Venus and Mercury. But what the subatomic particle is telling us, I ain't gonna show up anywhere in between Venus and Mercury. Reality, with everything in reality compatible with everything else in reality, is such that I'm not gonna be in between Mercury and Venus. I'm either gonna be in Mercury, on Mercury, or I'm gonna be on Venus. And what the quantum, quote unquote, leap is telling us is a manifestation of either or.